Welcome to the Rick Helps Real Estate Show, a morning live edition. A few things to share with you this morning. Although the numbers are slow, we're seeing some things kind of turn a little bit. This government shutdown has kind of shut everything down. But before I get to that, I want to show you what you should be on the watch out for this weekend in the Phoenix area. And that are these two storms. We are going to get wet. They're predicting at least an inch of rain today, but most of it's going to come Saturday night through Tuesday. We've got a hurricane here and a hurricane here off of Cabo San Lucas. I don't ever remember a time when we got two of them and they're barreling down on us. And this one here has got a lot of water, and this one off of Cabo's got a ton of water. And you can see the moisture in the bands is already starting to make its way up here. And starting tonight, and especially tomorrow night, we're going to get wet. Now, rain here in Arizona can be a bit of a problem if you get a month's worth of rain in one day, and that's what it looks like we're going to have. We have a lot of washes around the valley, and you need to kind of stay out of those. If you see a wash filling up and there's a sign that says do not drive through the wash, 5 inches of water can wash you away. So be careful out there, and especially up in the areas like Sedona, Flagstaff, and Payson, they're going to get a ton of rain. And the rain doesn't really soak into the ground that much, as we saw in Globe about 2.5 weeks ago. It was pretty disastrous. So I hope we don't repeat that again. So hang in there and be careful this weekend. But check this out. The Cromford Market Index chart gets updated on Fridays. And there's an interesting development in this chart in that finally, they're able to add Santan Valley separate from Queen Creek. That hasn't been happening before. People always ask me, what's going on in Santan Valley? I haven't been able to pull it up separately. So now we can. Different numbers. So you'll start seeing that again. You can see here that their index is 69.7. Queen Creek is even more favorable for buyers at 55.9. Maricopa holding up the bottom right there at 47.2. And a lot of them turned red over the past week. What does that number mean? Well, it means, well, first, let me show you where Santan Valley is for people that don't know. Here's Queen Creek right here, and here's the Santan Valley. So this is what the Cromford report is going to be referencing if you want to see numbers there. And so what they're saying is that we now have 18 cities on this chart, and they're saying that it's really shifted. They have expected to see some movement up because of what we were seeing happening in our inventory. And what I've seen happening in our inventory is, well, no, we are seeing inventory start to climb, but I'm not seeing sales following it. And that's kind of what I've been saying for a long time here. Inventory will increase. Will sales follow? There's no reason for the sales to follow at this point. Interest rates are stuck. Prices have not, plummeted. Although I'm going to talk about what we're seeing out there with regards to that, but we're sitting here below. We're at 2558. The interesting thing is you can see that our listings now are over 25,000. We have not had that for a while. So new listings have gone up. Now, this spike up that you see is simply a result of not the foreclosure numbers, the expired numbers finally rolling off the 7-day moving average. So the expired numbers, which are about 950, brought this new listing number down here. So now that they've rolled off on how I count it, we've spiked back up. But you can see that we have new listings at 3134, new contracts at 2558. That puts slight downward pressure on the market. And I say slight because that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing anything fall off the map. Now, that chart that I showed you, go ahead and sign up for my weekly newsletter. You'll get it in the morning on Monday, and it'll have the chart here, and it shows all their commentary. You can ask for a personalized market zip code report. Get a detailed market report here in this blue button. It goes into real detail. Here's your mortgage information. Pat puts in a mortgage tidbit, tells you what he thinks. And then we have current detailed mortgage report. You can search for homes, search for foreclosures, and then I give you my opinion. Very mobile friendly, and it's a quick read. The only downside of that is there's nothing like getting up in the morning on a Monday, opening up your email and seeing my smiling face. But it says here, new listings are up, pending sales slip in a subdued market nationally. Well, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that new listings are up and pending sales slip, but they haven't really slipped, especially in our market. And it just baffles me how it just matched last year. Our pending sales haven't slipped. They're just matching last year. Let me get rid of 2021 to 23 and show you just how weird this is. I've showed it to you before, but here it is. I mean, week after week, we follow last year. It's just like we got this pattern. We're hugging last year's numbers. So I can make this bold prediction right now that says, well, in my professional opinion, pending listings are going to go up next week. Well, that doesn't take much of a crystal ball. You can see that. And they start to go down as we get closer to the holidays. Now, what are we seeing in regards to active listings? I just showed you one chart. Here's where we're at now. They're climbing up a little bit. This shows us here at 24,963, 983. We're up a little higher than that. Months of supply are still 3.7. We climbed up to 5 in the first of the year because everybody got optimistic and listed their homes and they weren't moving. I pulled it back. Everybody likes to compare to pre-pandemic. Well, 2019, we're at 3.3 and we're only at 3.7 now. Again, nothing alarming there. And it all boils around to this big number here, 6.38 as far as mortgages. But what we're seeing in the market is in certain price points, you have a short window here because now we're going to get into the holidays, November, December. Things just back off like crazy. And sellers will probably remove their listings in December because they don't want to mess around with it during the holidays. But there's some people really, really want to sell before Thanksgiving. And there are some price points here where there's not a lot of activity. 2,500 contracts over 7 days is slow, historically slow. So if you're a buyer, you've got sellers out there right now that are willing to negotiate. We're seeing some incredible negotiations going on. It all depends on the neighborhood and the price point. And I'm not trying to create FOMO here. I'm just telling you what we're seeing and what's going on. And we're seeing some offers being accepted to where just a few months ago, you would have just been rejected. There are some sellers out there that need to move. Now, sellers in certain areas that are pricing correctly and they've found the right price in the right neighborhood are also not having a problem. Those neighborhoods, as you can see by the Cromford report here, would primarily be Scottsdale, Chandler, Gilbert, Avondale, Queen Creek, because they're above 110. More of an advantage for sellers. This is just a measurement of supply and demand. But the bargains, folks, are down here, anywhere below Peoria and Tempe. And when I say bargains, it's extremely difficult for people to get their homes sold in those markets. It's incredibly competitive. It's not a crash situation. Our situation is wildly different now because, there's so much equity out there that people are putting their homes on the market. And if they don't get their price, they're going, well, I'll come back another day. Whether or not that's a good long-term play for them or not, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen next year. Right now, we've got a government shutdown. So the stock market is pulling back. Investors right now are saying, I'm going to park my money somewhere else, take my profits and wait to see how this silliness ends. And we're seeing that in the stock market. We're seeing that a bit in the real estate market too. I'm just going to wait. We like news that says, I got to sit on my hands a little bit. We're seeing a lot of that. We've seen that for the past 2 years. November was, well, I'm going to wait till after the elections. And then January was, well, I'm going to wait and see what this administration does. And then in April, oh no, we have tariffs. This is going to be bad. I'm going to sit back and wait and see what happens. And now we have the shutdown. I'm going to wait and see what's going on in the shutdown. In the meantime, there's some people out there scraping up some bargains quietly. I recommend getting a realtor to help you with that, going directly to the selling agent. It's not going to help you because sometimes we get to call the agent and say, hey, look, we're looking at your house here. It's been on the market 100 days. Obviously, you haven't had any activity, and we get to start the conversation and start tossing some numbers back and forth and get serious about negotiations. And we get to pull up some other reports on the neighborhood and show them where they're sitting in relationship to the other homes that are for sale. We get to talk about some of the repairs that we possibly see. We're not the inspectors, but we look and go, this place could use some TLC. And that's why you've been sitting here this long. I've got a buyer that's really interested. Let's chat. You'd be surprised how much that spurs the conversation towards getting the seller to go, okay, I'm willing to listen now. Because when you are an agent and you go to the seller and say, we really should lower your price to get more activity, they're just not willing to do it because they're convinced that activity is going to show up. They go, I put a lot of money in this house. I only need one buyer, and that buyer's out there. Well, sometimes that buyer's not out there. But when that buyer is out there and an agent has called you and entered into a conversation, sometimes nice things can happen. So that's kind of the market that we're seeing right now. And right now, also, we're seeing a shift in artificial intelligence. And I saw an article here on Real Estate News. As industry leans into AI, reports finds agent use is lagging. Could have told you that. Look at these stats. Most real estate professionals use AI in some form, but a new agent survey from Kaplan found that 46% don't and 17% aren't planning to use artificial intelligence in 1 to 3 years. If they don't, they're going to be gone. Right now, a lot of agents are using artificial intelligence to write property descriptions. They're using it to make cute videos. The real meat of artificial intelligence is the data that you can get from it. You can look at a neighborhood and you can pull up reports on the multiple listing service, but you can start doing a deep dive in artificial intelligence and say, tell me what's really going on in this neighborhood. You can upload a photo of the house, the listing description, and say, tell me with buyer's eyes what this looks like. You can pull up a listing that you're going to put on. You can submit the photos and say, tell me how to optimize this to get the most eyeballs on this listing. And it's changing every day. It was only a couple of years ago that artificial intelligence didn't crawl through the web. They couldn't access the web. Now they do. It's amazing what they get. And that's why I have my zip code reports in this QR code right here. If you click on that, I use artificial intelligence. I write a prompt description, what I'm looking for, and you get like an 8-page report for that zip code. And it comes from multiple sources. It doesn't just come from the multiple listing service or Cromford. It pulls from everybody. Sometimes I get in, I find what's called hallucinations, a number that's like, wow, this is way off. But it's interesting. So I recommend giving that a try. And it says here that agent insight and sentiment can be enlightened in a moment when economic uncertainty and stubbornly low home sales are persistent in the U.S. home market. And it says a new report from educational resource provider Kaplan adds to the growing number of agent surveys to help offer a better understanding what's going on in real estate professionals are seeing and how the market is holding up. Industry-wide AI push has real momentum. Just about every brokerage office in the country right now is having classes on how to understand artificial intelligence. It does so much now. I can really see, in fact, when you write a purchase contract, I can take that purchase contract, I can upload it to artificial intelligence, say, please summarize this for me. And you as a buyer, instead of reading 9 pages of documents, can read a summary. Well, you offered this, got accepted this is your closing date, boom, boom. It's very convenient. You can also upload it and say, please find any errors before I submit it. So it's really helping us in the industry and it's speeding things up. Artificial intelligence is going to help with underwriting and lending, I think very soon, within a year. Instead of underwriting taking the long time that it does, the lender's going to be able to upload all the documents into artificial intelligence, and underwriting is just going to, AI is just going to go, looks good, send it back. Or it's going to say, hey, we need help here, here, and here. So I think it's going to be a real game changer for us. And I'm watching it and studying it very closely. I'm not a geek, but I do like some of this stuff. It's kind of fun. Look what's going on with gold. Have you seen this? $4,000 an ounce, $3,999. Will it hold? Well, gold goes up in times of uncertainty, and we've certainly got a lot of uncertainty in this market right now. So the market is kind of soft today. It's kind of flat. Mortgage rates are not moving. The bond market's not moving. I expect this to be this way until the shutdown is over. And even then, I can't tell you whether rates are going to go up or not. Robot real estate agents, probably, and driverless cars. You're going to pull up in a driverless car is going to pull up and push a button and unlock the house for you. It helps us with our processes. Artificial intelligence is not going to negotiate for you. It's going to do research on the home. It's going to do research on the neighborhood. I did a zip code report this morning for a gentleman, 85226, and that's a very popular area for the school district. So in the zip code report, I asked it, I said, please provide pertinent information on the school districts along with scores. And it laid out a whole report on how those schools were doing. I love it. We got a comment here from Sid. Good morning, Sid. News is telling us that rent is falling even in good areas like Chandler, Gilbert, and Tempe, and condos in Scottsdale. Does the Cromford market data tell us anything about this? It doesn't tell us much because a lot of the rent, they don't go through the MLS. But those areas, as I have been expecting, and I'm going to try and look this up here for you, as I've been expecting, is they're overbuilding, and especially in rentals. And so you're seeing a lot of rent reductions in the corporate space, the big places like Graystar and stuff, where they're offering 1 month free, 2 months free, all kinds of deals like that. The actual data that we're seeing is showing that we're down to $1.34 a square foot, and we are $1.42. Although it looks like it's going down a lot on the graph, it's really not that much here. And again, the majority of your rentals are on apartments.com, rental.com, or Zillow. Be careful on Craigslist. If you see a bargain on Craigslist, call an agent and say, can you verify the ownership? I've seen some, let's say Sun Lakes. I saw one once, $900 a month. I couldn't believe it. So I looked it up on the MLS. It was for sale. It was not for lease. So I called the agent. Hey, there's an ad out there on Craigslist, a posting, pushing your house for $900 a month, and yet it's for sale. And what they do is they don't live here. They post it for rent, $900 a month, and they get you to mail in a deposit, and then you never hear from them again. And so that's very, very common on Craigslist. I'd avoid Craigslist like the plague. Go to apartments.com, rental.com, or ask an agent to do a search for you on MLS, or Zillow is also a real good resource for rentals. Craigslist, flick that one off your desk, please. Love the use of AI, but what happens if there is an error that's caused financial impact those who take responsibility for that? That falls back on the agent. Everything has to be reviewed. I mean, I don't matter where I get my data from now, and that's what AI is. It's all data. So if you're pulling the data, you have to double check it. Like I said, I've done some AI reports, and I've had to go through, and I found what they call hallucinations. I did a report a couple of weeks ago, and it said that we're having bidding wars. In what planet did you do that? So you can go back in and find out what source they found that. And they went back to 2021. So I get in and correct it. You have to know your market, but you have to know if a number's right or if a number's wrong. So when you're uploading a purchase contract and it says this all looks good and everything, you're the agent. You've got to review it. So it doesn't remove that. There's a lot of discussions in the medical field right now about how AI is going to affect things like pathology reports, because you can put things in and ask them to review it. And, but it's still the pathologist that has to look at it, double check it, and sign off on it. Nobody's ever going to win a lawsuit that said, well, artificial intelligence said it was good, so did I. I mean, I've done that with some medical reports. I've taken an image and sent it into ChatGPT and said, what does this say to you? And it's interesting to me how they can look at it and go, well, you have a cyst on your kidney, your left kidney, it's amazing. But they said, but we're not making medical decisions. We're going to need several more images for this to happen. We recommend you get with your doctor and have this reviewed. I just did it for giggles, just to see what was going on. I had an MRI. And, but yeah, the Phoenix, you're right. People need to be careful. Artificial intelligence, as good as it's getting, can also cause a lot of problems. It's helping us with a lot of administrative things. But my point on artificial intelligence and realtors not learning about it, they need to dig in and learn about it. Good morning, Jackie. Hope things are going well for you. Get out there and learn AI. And I know she is. So here's what I think is going to happen on YouTube. We're seeing a push towards artificial intelligence for creating content and more videos, more TikToks, more market reports. Yet YouTube is starting to really not like that. They like this more. This is why I like doing live, is because I'm just sharing the data with you live. Artificial intelligence is not helping me with any of this except for the thumbnail. And so YouTube likes live content. They like sincere content. Take Michael Zuber, for example, one rental at a time. It's just him. and his computer and his laptop and people that he interviews. He does no artificial content. He doesn't do any editing. I don't do any editing. You've probably seen videos of me. If I sneeze, I leave it in. I don't care. But YouTube is trying to gravitate towards authentic content and take the artificial intelligence stuff. They're not going to ban it. They're still going to monetize it, but they're not going to put it in front of as many people. The real battle that's going on in AI is going to be between Instagram and TikTok. But the problem with TikTok and Instagram is if you got an agent that says, well, we're going to put your listing on Instagram, how long does it really stay there? Do you go to Instagram and search for homes for sale? Do you go to YouTube and search homes for sale? No, you don't. You go to Zillow, or you go to the MLS, or you ask your agent. Social media only puts something up for a short period of time, puts it in the feed in Facebook, and then it's gone. So unless you're sitting there posting every 6 hours, your listing only shows up for a personal amount of time. Like Jackie says, I like organic. Organic is the best. You look at TikTok. Oh, look at that house. Gone. Now, I've talked to people like investors that put a home up that they have that they're going to flip, and they put it up on TikTok, and somebody just happened to see it and call them. It's successful. It's great. TikTok and Instagram are great for getting people to know you. Oh, Rick's out there selling houses. He's out on the street. He's doing this. He's doing that. But as far as taking your listing, putting it out there and saying, well, I'm going to blanket your listing all these places, 95% of eyeballs are on the multiple listing service. Your pictures have to be more than good. They have to be great. They have to show everything. You don't need 95 of them. I think the average you should have is about 25, but they got to be good. They don't need to be extreme wide angle that distorts the real feel for the house. The Matterport cameras where people do a walkthrough, I kind of like that, but the data shows that the consumer does not like that. They don't like getting on there and having to move around, because the majority of you are looking at listings and looking at everything on the phone, including here. In fact, 41% of you right now are probably watching me on TV. That's why I put in the QR code. You can click that with your phone, because you can't click on anything when you're watching me on TV. And so people that are looking at the homes and they see Matterport and they see the walkthrough and they're looking at it on TV, on the MLS, they're looking at it on their phone, they really don't like doing the walkthrough. And that was shared with me by the owners of Red Hog Media after they went to a conference talking about the future of real estate photography. And it really is just make sure the pictures are good. In certain neighborhoods, people like a drone. They want to see what's surrounding the area. The description is very important, but the details inside of it that you can put in, and in the private remarks, which is one agent talking to another agent, is also very important. In other words, be aware that, this does not convey and blah, blah, blah. And so you want as much detail as you can before you send it off to a client. But 9 times out of 10, you guys send me a list of what you want to see, and then I go in there, I review it. Sid is saying, how is investor activity now? I see flippers buying and quickly putting the house on the market in 2 months, and it just sits. Can't understand how they make money in the market. Sid, their margins are down. I mean, they used to make like a 60% margin now. Now they're lucky if they make 20. There's homes out there that you can look at that need a lot of work, and investors won't touch them because the margin's just not there. Investors work backwards. If this home is all fixed up and it's nice, it'll be worth $500,000. So they back out their expenses from there. It's going to take me $50,000 to improve it, $30,000 in expenses, $8,000 in carrying costs. So I can only offer this. They go in and offer that, they get it, and they start rolling things in. They find out their expenses for repairing it are more than they anticipated. And they try to put it on the market, and it sits there. And next thing you know, instead of making 20,000, they're upside down by 5. Seeing that a lot, but there are investors that are very keen and put a really aggressive pencil to it, or I should say conservative pencil to it, and walk through and think carefully before they pull the trigger. If you're getting an offer from an investor, it's not going to be enough, which is going to be interesting what I'm watching with Open Door now. Some of the investors are really keen, stock investors saying, oh, this is going to be the Amazon of real estate. I don't get that. What do you mean Amazon of real estate? Is Open Door really going to be, I like this home, I click on it, I'm going to buy it, and I've got title and insurance and everything all right here? I don't know. I am interviewing a guy next week that's got a new brokerage that says he does just that. I can't wait for that interview. I want to see how he's tying everything together to kind of make a one destination shop for buying and selling your home. Because we've also got RESPA things we have to be careful with. I can recommend a title agency, but I can't require it. Zillow's kind of getting spanked a little bit because they're telling their preferred agents on their Flex platform, you need to start sending them to our mortgage company. If you don't, we're not going to send you as many buyers. So there's almost not really lawsuits because people in the Flex program really don't want to rattle their cage because they want to get more buyer leads sent to them. So we have to be careful. And so tying everything together sounds great, but you as a consumer, you want choice. Well, what if I don't want that lender? Geez, I worked with that title company before. It was awful. So I don't know how Open Door is going to become this big tech company that some of these people think they will be. I think the investors that are sinking the money in don't know anything about real estate. Just my personal opinion for what it's worth. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cut out of here. I want everybody to please be careful this weekend. Saturday to Tuesday is supposed to be very wet. Stay out of the washes. Some areas won't be affected at all. Some are going to have some really brutal results. I have seen streets flood in Scottsdale where the mud has washed into office buildings, and it can get ugly out there when it wants to. It all depends. This kind of weather actually helps us spur some microbursts that come down and destroy things. So you just have to be careful. I know in my neighborhood, I had winds all night. Living in Phoenix, Arizona with Jacqueline Smith, JC's margins, she says here, are so tight for brokerages, they're having to do JC's. JV, she says. Okay. Well, anyway, everybody, have a great weekend. Stay safe. I can't stress that enough. Take care. Good to see you this morning.